Greetings, magical mages and spiritual sages. Welcome to Age of the Mage podcast. We're on episode 58. And today I want to do something a little different. I suppose it might sound similar, but I'm usually sharing so much and offering ideas and suggestions to you. But today I'd like to offer some questions, some ways for you to ask yourself things that it's important to ask right now, and see what your own thought process comes up with. See where your intuition leads you as you kind of play with these questions and think about them and meditate with some of them, and let's see where we end up. So, as you know, we've been going over the 9 magical archetypes. We have one more that I'll be doing soon, which is the Weaver. But we've covered the Warrior, the Healer, the Guardian, the Sage, the Commander, the Oracle, the Keeper, and the Builder. And we've also gone over the 7 Immortal Soul Lines, the Vampire, the Artisan, the Healer, the Priest and Priestess, the Messenger, the Shaman, and the Magi. And I think I got them all. I will leave links down below to 2 of the videos that do the overviews of those in case you missed them. And then, of course, there's the spiritual overlays that we've talked about. So these are the places your soul has traveled or been before this particular incarnation, and perhaps has left quite strong imprints upon you, so that you have natural affinities to those places your soul has spent time in. And I will leave that link as well. Our main reason for doing these kinds of soul searching visualizations, exercises, thought processes is to get a feeling about ourselves and really zero in on what we like to do. And we're doing all this through the eyes of magic, with this focus on spirit, with this focus on soul and magical work and practice. And so it gets a little bit different flavor than if you are just looking at personality quizzes in order to determine a career pattern or something along those lines. We want to zero in such a way that it helps us see, where do we really like to put our energy when we are called to use our spiritual connections or talents or our magical powers and practice. And this has been the whole purpose behind offering to you these various ways to think about ourselves, and these various kind of categories that we find ourselves having some affinity with. And so for today, I would like to just throw back some questions to get us all thinking a little bit more about these things now that we've been introduced to them through the podcast, and also on the website modernmasters.org. We have a lot of information there too, but we've been introduced to this idea of finding ourselves and finding what we resonate with. And so today I'd like to ask you, how do you see yourself utilizing your magic? Are you able to comprehend at this point that this could become part of your daily life? Or is your particular practice going to be a little more spread out, maybe once a week? Are you interested in ritual work that might demand a little bit more attention? Do you find that you crave kind of the magical zone being with you all the time? Is it something you want to really focus in on heavily, with a lot of allowing a lot of time for growth and skill training in these areas? So I guess my first question is to look at ourselves and ask, how deep do we want to get with this? How much time do we have in our current lives to spend with these things? And that's going to vary for everyone, because we are all at different times. Some of us are very busy with family life, or others with jobs. And there's a reality, there's a 3D reality, isn't there, that is going to determine partially how much time we can spend with this other part of ourselves, this magical spiritual part. And that might be the first place to start. Just ask yourself, run through a typical week in your mind for yourself. Do you find that you have 20, 30 minutes every day just as you get into bed to relax, do meditations or thoughts, visualizations at that time? Is it when you first wake up that you have a few minutes? Do you not even have those minutes in your day? Are you so busy right now that you would need to schedule, actually add into your calendar a time for this kind of processing and practicing of something that really catches your interest? And so this might be a good starting point to just see, where are your expectations with regards to your own growth, with regards to your own expansion into these etheric realms. And just because you're somewhere now doesn't mean you're going to be the same place in 3 months from now, and it doesn't mean you were in the same place 5 years ago. We change all the time. But this is a good thing to just kind of figure out. And for those of us that need to schedule something, if our lives are so busy, then it can become something you look forward to. It actually makes its way onto your calendar. It's actually an hour or two that you set aside to read a book, do a ritual, take a special bath, mix up a special potion, whatever the case may be. That can become a time that you have set aside for this and for your growth, for your own sake, to get closer and closer to your spiritual realms, to your true and core central soul, and to this higher self and these higher dimensions. And then there's going to be some of us that we're in a cycle where we can commit quite a bit of time to this. We might be able to say, oh, I am so ready. I am so ready to take this all to the next level. And it's really coming in on me anyway. My intuition is really perked up. My connection with another realm is almost all the time now. Or I have beings that I am in communication with, or I am manifesting more quickly, whatever the case may be for you. You may find that, hey, I have time. I can do something with this daily. I could take a few minutes twice a day, or I could take 2 hours every afternoon. I could think about these things. I can dedicate really some time to this. So first off, the question is, what are you up against? What do you want to plan for? What's your level? What's the time that you can allot and that you can give yourself to work with magical principles and spiritual connections? All right, second question. The second question is, how do you plan to use these skills that you'll be attaining and adding to and enhancing as you work through various phases of your magical experience and your spiritual work? As you do this, where's the end game for you? Where is this leading for you? Now, many people don't even have an end in sight. This is just a fun and enjoyable and wonderful process, part of life, ongoing. And you're perfectly happy to let it happen and just see where it leads you, see where it goes. And of course, some of that is necessary. Some of this faith and trust in the idea that we're following our destiny and that steps and the next phases will be revealed to us as we go is certainly part of the entire magical experience of life. So we wouldn't want to, get so categorical that we box ourselves in any way. We always want to stay open to what our souls have to show us about ourselves and about our destinies. But at the same time, we can play around a little with ideas. What do you see yourself doing? If you are a healer, are you already finding that people come to you for assistance and help? Or are you a little more quiet about it? Is it mainly just your inner circle of friends that knows this about you? Perhaps your family or very, very close friends? These types of places that you would put yourself as far as how much you're already doing with your special talents and your special gifts. If you are an oracle and you're receiving messages, are you journaling those yet, or are you just experiencing them as they come and not worrying too much about being able to share them? Where are you on that journey and on those phases of development? Where do you sit, and where would you like to be? What do you see yourself doing? Let's take that example of the oracle that is able to hear messages from other dimensions. Or perhaps you are in touch with one or two guides, an angel, a galactic being, an inner earth being, someone that you do feel is helping you with some messaging. All right. And maybe you have started to jot some notes down because they seem to be fairly meaningful messages. And yes, they probably mostly concern you at this point, but are you starting to see a pattern perhaps that they could be shared and help others? Let's say you're kind of in that zone with the oracle's work. Would you see yourself in the future um, offering these messages to a wider audience? Do you see yourself inviting someone to ask you questions that you can take to this guide or to this extra dimensional being and receive messages on their behalf? How do you see your path unfolding, and where would you love to be? Some people do not want to go more widespread. Their desires are about depth rather than breadth, and they actually intend to just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into their experiences for themselves. Anything is appropriate. If it is close to your heart and it's your true desire, then working towards that is where you belong. That's your path. So this is in no way, when I make suggestions or we brainstorm together, this is in no way to guide someone or to limit or to suggest one and only way or one and only direction. I'm simply offering some ideas to get us thinking and to trigger our thoughts about our own paths and our own destinies. I'd like to ask this question. Do you truly believe in this magic of yours? Have you reached that stage that you believe it is to be implemented? It is supposed to be integrated with your life. Many of us, as we come to recognize that magical things exist, spiritual worlds exist, we aren't always in the cycle yet or in the phase yet where we think that that should be a daily occurrence, or that we should worry about that becoming so tied to our existence. So we're all in different phases that way too. Where do you stand? I have a feeling for this audience that you are resonating to the podcast because you have a deeper interest in these things and in enhancing your own gifts and spending a bit more time with them. So I think that you're probably most likely in the phase where you recognize this magic exists. And yes, you are interested in more integration and more control over that, over whatever gifts you may be. I'm just going to guess. But again, no judgment. We may have listeners who are just waking up and remembering their magic. They are just having experiences right now with their first, entering into like these zones of synchronicity, and just the lights are going on, and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, a lot of realizations are coming up to the surface. So I realize that this is for anyone to take stock of your own personal path and where you are. So yes, let's just say now that I have another question for you. Let's say that you have determined that magic is important to you, that having more magic into your life, adding that into your life in any way that comes to you, which of course you're just so very many, all as individual as each of us are. How determined are you? How much commitment can you throw behind this project? Now, not in terms of just time. We talked about time in the beginning. But is this something that is a true to your heart, a true draw? Is this something that is consistently with you For the most part, we all go up and down. We all have cycles, busier times in life, so on and so forth. But do you find yourself returning over and over again to this draw to utilize these extrasensory gifts of yours? If this is the case, and if you find yourself in that position, and that is a feeling that you tend to have, then what is your commitment level towards doing something about it? Do you find that you are willing to do reading and research? Do you find that you are willing to listen to other mentors, or follow people, podcasts and other types of presentations that people have put together to expand your knowledge and tempt you into new areas? Right? Do you find that the commitment goes even beyond absorbing information, but you are starting to exhibit, you're starting to act, you are starting to follow your own intuition, follow your own instincts. Get up and work some magic. Get up and do it. Are you saying affirmations if that's your thing? Are you doing visualizations if that's what you like? Are you planning ritual because you enjoy it? Are you gathering and collecting magical items because you are honing your sensitivities to these things, and this is your pure joy and what you enjoy doing? Are you creating, either in the 3D world, something that ties into your magical beliefs and things you enjoy, or in the etheric world? Are you working on creating a sanctuary for yourself in an etheric realm, or these types of things? In other words, is your current state of commitment, is it just absorption for now, or have you taken the step where you are doing, where you are acting, where you are taking action based on your interests, based on where you see yourself going with this, at least for this time? I know that could change at any time. And so we have to take an assessment of ourselves. We have to ask ourselves. Now, here's a tough question, right? If you already believe in the power inherent in these magical practices, these etheric fields, and if you already are in touch with beings that you value, if you already have spiritual experiences coming into your life, and yet you are not incorporating that, you are not planning any sort of action that you could take in response to these experiences, could we ask ourselves why? Why not? Why aren't we doing that? What are we waiting for, perhaps? Why aren't we merging our period of absorbing with merging it into a period of activity? Is something blocking that for you? Is something standing in our way? Is there resistance for some reason? These are good questions we need to ask. I believe we need to ask them because I think we're at a critical time where we need ourselves. We need a magical mages, sages, spiritual starseeds, mentors of all types, and spiritual guides. We've got to move into action, I think. But this time, that timing is different for everyone, and I certainly understand that. So today is just about the prompting. Today is just about the questions, just about how we can gently move ourselves, if we need to. If we want to consider moving ourselves from listening, moving ourselves from talking, even that's a step above listening, isn't it? Interacting. How do we move from complete absorption to the second phase, which is sharing, to the next phase, which is, I want to do something. I can do something with this, right? And so many of you are already there. I know that. Many of you are very active in your in the spiritual world and in the things you do magic. So my question is going out, of course, to all of you, dear listeners, where we all are in different phases, and I know that, and I by no means this is not, again, I must stress, not attached to any judgment at all. It's just a series of questions that we should start asking ourselves, I believe. And let's say that we're all the way through some of these introductory types of questions, some of these smaller activations and triggers, and we're just going great guns. We are practicing, we're doing things, we're sharing, we're interacting, and we have we have our own schedule set up in such a way that magic is part of our lives and spirit is part of our lives nearly all the time. That's fantastic. Now, can we even move from that phase? Can we make the leap to believing that if we team up with just one friend or two people we trust or meet, that we could just even ramp it up to the next level? Is that a possibility? Is that a belief? Is that dangling like a carrot in front of some of us? Is that the next step? I believe that we have the capacity to look at specific issues, specific targets, specific situations, and really start doing something about them. Now, many of you are already doing this. I know you belong to wonderful groups, or you may have a few trusted friends that you already have, for example, a prayer circle or a healing circle, or maybe you get together and you invent herbal potions and magical things that way. Maybe you get together and do work on the etheric grid. Maybe you get together and you meditate for peace, for love, for healing, for cleansing. So many of you are already doing this. I would just invite us to continue to see if that is of interest, because I believe so wholeheartedly, based on my very first visions about this gathering and about so many of you, that I believe we're headed in that direction and that it will be tremendously powerful. Not only for ourselves, it will give us a community. It will offer us people and friendships of kindred souls, of kindred spirits, of this like-mindedness. And of course, that is one wonderful benefit of such a thing. But I believe we can even become a force to be reckoned with, a unified type of collective. I get requests from people who are dealing with, on personal levels, things, attacks perhaps by dark beings, or a history with abductions then they're not healing from, or a situation that is corrupt and they would like some help dismantling corruption. I get these requests. Now, what if I could say, I have a team for you? I have a team you need to talk to, because this is exactly what they handle. This is what they do, and they're good at it. Let's get you together. Let's get you chatting with each other and see if they could be helpful. So we already are having incoming requests from individuals, but we could do, even all of us can even do things that we see as a group we might like to work on. There is real power to be had. There will be more and more ways for us to work in practical applications of what up until now has been considered so esoteric or so occult that it had this segregation between, oh, I do that over here in this part of my life, and then I go back to work. I believe those lines are going to start getting more and more fuzzy. I think we're going to see this merging of realities, and we're going to be a step ahead. We're going to be on the leading edge of knowing how to thrive and survive and affect these new realities and the new dimensions we'll be merging with, and new frequencies that we'll be dealing with, if we are the front runners as mages, as sages, and recognize, wow, we could start right now. We can do it right now. We can start merging these, and we're going to be ahead of the game because we're going to have experiences that teach us what works, what doesn't work so much. And we'll be ready to help guide others, and our own skills will be progressing at the same time. So I won't go on too much longer today, but I just wanted to offer all these questions to each and every one of you. I suppose you could call this podcast a great big call to action, to coin a phrase that's out in the world right now. Not so much that I could tell any of you what that action would be or what that next step for you would be, more to encourage each one of us to find what is our next step for ourselves. Is it more time commitment? Is it more energy commitment? Is it more that we move out of ourselves and go into a sharing mode? Is it from sharing to action mode? Just, just questions that would lead us who claim we believe in magic, who claim we believe in spirit. Do we believe in it really? Because if we do, if we believe in it like we claim we do, then we're going to start realizing it's some real power that can be used. Why in the world aren't we doing it? Why are we sitting back and defaulting back to 3D powers so often when we have this belief in how strong other forces and how effective those other forces can be? Again, just questions for all of us to think about and really dig deep and say, hadn't thought of it that way. How do I really feel about all this stuff? Where do I really sit? Because the time for action is upon us, and the time is helping us. Like, we have a lot of challenges right now in the world, but we also have just so much light pouring in, and so many beings willing to help us right now, and so many dimensions merging, and so many frequencies rising, that we can take a hold of these fabulous benefits and just boost ourselves in ways that might not have even been possible a few years ago, as far as how quickly changes can be made, transformations and transcendence can happen. I would just encourage all of us to run through these kinds of questions. Allow yourself to take a little bit of time with this and do a little bit of self-assessment. That's what we've been focusing on, right, for a few weeks now. Various kinds of self-assessment. And only you have these answers. I don't have them. I don't have them for anyone. But once we get a feeling for where we are, then this becomes more real. And I believe my message to you is to help you let this part of yourself become more real and become more integrated into every moment of your life. This is where we're heading. This is where the human race, I'm hoping that we're heading. And this is going to start providing us more and more of the answers we're looking for, and of the types of things we'll need to be able to do in these new times that have arrived on our doorstep. I wish you all the very best, and I hope we all can enjoy this questioning process to some degree and find some value in it. I thank you for sharing your precious time with me. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to squeeze out a half an hour. I do it myself. I love to listen to so many people, and I appreciate them, and I appreciate you. I will return soon with some more messages, and I will say goodbye for now.